Welcome to the BNEWS Oscar Preview. I'm Phil Gallagher, along with my guest today, BNEWS entertainment reporter Chris Flaherty. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Phil.
Chris has been with BCAT since 2003 as a volunteer. He's in his third year as a full-time employee here. He's a graduate of Quinnipiac College with a degree in film, video, and interactive media. He is a 2009 graduate?
2009, yep.
2009 graduate of Burlington High School. And this year I'm forever in his debt because last year he gave me 14 pages of preview for this program.
It wasn't 14.
It was 14 pages.
All right, I'm going to check.
And this year it's 4 pages. So
I showed some restraint this year.
Yes, you did. So, but we're going to let you carry the ball. So,
all right.
First of all, let's start with controversies and what have you. Have they found a host?
They are going without a host this year. This is the first time they've gone without a host since 1989. And I don't know if you or our viewers remember the 1989 Oscar ceremony, but the intro to that show was a bizarre train wreck. It was almost like a Disney parade on drugs. Like, it's like Snow White comes out and she's singing this parody of Follow the Yellow Brick Road, and it's Follow the Hollywood Stars. And then it turns into the Copacabana, and then Merv Griffin comes out and he introduces these old stars like Vincent Price and Roy Rogers, and they do nothing. They do nothing. It's like a promenade. They just walk in and out.
That's like the red carpet.
Yeah, exactly. And then Rob Lowe comes out and he does a song and dance with Snow White. It is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And then by the end of it, Lily Tomlin comes out and she addresses the crowd, and you just know that she knows what a train wreck that just was. And she's just like on with the show.
So the program itself is going to be reduced to what, 3 hours?
3 hours strictly live broadcast. What's going to happen is certain categories are going to be announced during commercial breaks, and then they're going to be edited live during the broadcast. Now, for a long time, nobody knew what the categories were that were getting the acts, and it is cinematography, hairstyle and makeup, a sound award, and an editing award, I believe.
So that means that they're not going to get any exposure nationally whatsoever.
Right, just a quick little 30-second blip that's going to be edited in, like live to tape.
And what about some of the song performances?
The song performances, there's controversy with the song performances every year. Like, originally they're going to like, oh, we're not going to do it. Then, like, Twitter goes up in flames, and then they're like, okay, we'll do like 2 of them. And then they're still up in flames, and like, all right, we'll do all 5. So all 5 songs will be performed, my understanding. But yeah, those categories are just going to be edited in live. Obviously, a lot of people in the industry are very upset with this because, I mean, cinematography is how you shoot a film. And if you're not going to give exposure to how a film is shot, what is the point of even giving that award? So, like, Twitter's like saying #present all 24, like no small parts in a film. Mm-hmm. So.
Now, what about politics? Last year, I think De Niro in particular embarrassed himself and the award winners by, instead of lauding his peers for their accomplishments, he was up there exposing everybody to what his political views were.
Yeah, that was the Tonys, and I don't remember what award he was.
Was that the Tonys?
That was the Tonys, yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember what he was presenting. All I remember is he just walks out, and for whatever reason, he said this at the Tonys. I don't know, probably just because he had a platform. Mm-hmm. And he just goes, I'm going to say one thing, F Trump. Yeah. And the crowd goes,
well, of course
crazy.
They would, but...
and then like he presents like Best Actor in a Musical. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
Anything, exactly.
But, I mean, that's De Niro. De Niro, I think, has been picking fights with Trump for years.
Yeah. Now, what about overall the year for the film industry? Not a very good year at the box office.
Not really, no. I mean, you look at the top 10 highest grossing films of the year. Where am I? Yeah, it's all the same. It's the superhero movies. It's the big action pieces. Some animated films. I mean, Marvel, Star Wars. It's all the same over and over again. A lot of these films kind of underperformed. Like, obviously, people can predict like, oh, it's going to win going to get this much amount of money at the box office. Some of these really fell below expectations. In particular, like the Han Solo movie,
Right,
and
right.
then like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like
Wasn't that the worst performing of all of the Star Wars
worst
films?
performing out of all the Star Wars films?
Right.
And that's sort of like pumped the brakes on Disney's plans for future Star Wars films right now.
So what was that? Number 8 or 9?
That was number 10.
No. I don't mean in
Oh,
box office.
8.
I mean in the saga. Number 8 in the
uh-oh.
Star Wars saga.
I think it was like I'm gonna say like the 9th Star Wars film, but like the 9th Star Wars altogether, and then there's like the spin-offs. That was the 2nd spin-off movie.
Okay.
So
A young Han Solo.
yeah, young Han Solo. Yeah, not like a de-aged Harrison Ford.
Right.
But they probably could have done it if
They
they
could have
wanted
done it.
to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so let's go into the nominees. But before we go there, A Star Is Born was nominated.
Yes.
Do you think this kind of odd? I mean, Judy Garland did it originally.
Yep.
Then Streisand did it. You know, two divas of their time.
Yeah.
I mean, Streisand, certainly probably topped the
Right.
first one. But I mean, is that what we're into now? Is there no original programming that is going to make these nominations?
I did a lot of research on A Star Is Born because I was originally going to do it for cinema series, but the one I was going to do was the Judy Garland one, and
Nice plug for that, by the way.
Yeah.
Chris hosts a monthly cinema series
almost monthly,
on a chosen Hollywood classic.
Yeah.
Dr. Strangelove, by the way, was
Dr.
my
Strangelove.
that was
yes.
my favorite.
Yep. And this month we're doing the animated film How to Train Your Dragon because the 3rd one's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Great.
But I was going to do the Judy Garland version of Star Is Born, and to my discovery, when I bought the DVD, it is such a long film that they split it into two discs.
Parts. Oh,
yeah.
2 discs.
2 discs, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like a 3-hour film. And then also to my discovery, parts of the film have been lost over the years miraculously. Like, this is Warner Brothers. How did they lose this?
Don't they have an archive?
I thought so. So what they've done is they've taken pictures, like production stills, over where the lost footage was, and just let the audio run over these pictures, like a book on tape, as it were. So I said, like, you know what? I'm going to lose my audience. I'm not going to show this. And then I was like, well, which ones am I going to do? Am I going to do the original? And I'm like, that's too old. And then, like, the new one, it's too young, and it's rated R. The Streisand one is also rated R. So I'm scrapping Star Is Born. I'm doing How to Train Your Dragon instead.
That's right.
But,
Flee to the familiar and the safe.
Yes, safe and familiar. That's my motto at the cinema series. But I did do a lot of research on all 4 films, and it's a product. It's a vehicle for whoever is starring in that film. Like, that was Judy Garland's first role in like a long time, probably maybe since Wizard of Oz, and that boosted her back to stardom. The Streisand one, that was sort of like to prove that, hey, Streisand can sing and act, and it was to prove that Chris Christopherson could act. And then this one right here, obviously, Lady Gaga is one of the biggest stars right now, so it's like, okay, let's give Lady Gaga a film. And obviously, people ate it up.
And a platform for her voice, which,
Yes.
in my opinion, is in contemporary sense is equal to that of Streisand. Although,
Yeah.
people my age might argue that, but she certainly is a star from
absolutely.
a vocal standpoint.
Same with like Bradley Cooper or Chris Christopherson. But from analyzing like all 4 films, I did not watch all 4 A Star Is Born films. That's another day. It appears like
4? You said 4?
There's 4 versions. Well, there's the original and then there's the 3 remakes. I forget who stars in the original. I think it's Jeanette Gaynor. But then,
really? I thought Judy Garland was the original.
No, that's the first remake, and that was in '54. Streisand was like in the '70s, and then last year we had Garland and Bradley Cooper. Yeah, so
they're fleeing to the familiar as well.
Yeah,
apparently.
It's sort of like we've talked about before. Like Hollywood loves films about Hollywood.
Oh, good.
So obviously they're just going to eat this up, but from like a literary standpoint, like it does follow the same formula. Like this guy is a struggle. He was a big star. Now he's having some rough times. He finds this young struggling actress. They connect. Her star rises. His star falls. Yeah. So, and I don't think I'm spoiling 4 versions of one film by saying that. But again, it's all about who's starring in it, and it's also sort of, it's a nice like story about the human connection. Relationships in Hollywood, sacrifice, devotion, all that stuff.
Disappointment. Decline.
Yeah, the cynicism of Hollywood, the fickleness of Hollywood. And yeah, they sort of do different things with each like character development. Like the first two was about acting. The last two were about the music industry, which are both, as you know, probably fickle industries. So,
All right, so let's go on to the Best Picture. You
Yes.
have a number of you have all the nominees here,
Yes.
actually. And the one thing that I noticed was Black Panther
the very
was
first,
was
yeah,
nominated.
the very first superhero film to ever be nominated for Best Picture.
And the top box office
Yes,
draw for
one
the
of
year.
the top box office draw of the year. Now, for many years, only 5 films were nominated for Best Picture. Then in 2009, they're like, we're going to nominate 10 films for Best Picture. And for someone to go to the movies 10 times, I mean, not like me, but the money adds up after a while.
Right.
So immediately the next year, they were like, okay, we'll nominate from 5 to 10, but you have to qualify by getting like the top percentage of the votes. And it's sort of like, why did you even do that? Because they've still been nominating 9 pictures every year. So like, just give number 10 a slot. Like, I'm gonna go to the movies like an absurd amount of times either way.
So what did they get this year, though? 2,
This year we
4,
got 8.
7, 8. Okay.
8. This is the lowest we've had since 2015. And like you said, Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star Is Born, and the Dick Cheney film Vice. Now, there's not a huge amount of overlap between all these awards, but it's sort of like politics. Like, if you get on that stage, it's like your audition for the Oscars. If you do a good speech, maybe someone will say, like, you know what? I'm going to vote for him for the Oscars. And it's no coincidence that the Golden Globes happened the night before voting for the Oscars started.
Right.
I mean, it's sort of like a perfect storm. But there's all these patterns throughout the years. Like, if you win this award, there's a chance you could win that award. So, like we were talking about Black Panther, at the Screen Actors Guild, it won the Outstanding Performance by a Cast. And for the past like 10 years or so, 50% of winners of that film or that award have gone on to win Best Picture. So Black Panther, I mean, it's got like a 50-50 chance.
Okay, but the Golden Globe went to
The Golden Globe for comedy went to Green Book,
yeah.
and for drama it went to Bohemian Rhapsody. And these are 2 films that have been the center of a lot of controversy the past couple
Well,
of years.
one of the directors is whom?
Bohemian Rhapsody was directed by Bryan Singer, and I say directed like this because the whole shebang is he didn't show up for work half the time, and when he did show up for work, he was almost like physically confrontational with a lot of the cast and crew. So finally they decided, like, you're out. And the director of photography, I think, took over directing duties, but it still says directed by Bryan Singer at the start of the film. So there's that level of controversy, and then there's the other level where Bryan Singer has been in the center of several sexual abuse allegations for the past few years.
Great. So it's unlikely that he's going to win Best Director. Huh?
It's, I mean, he's not even
He's
nominated for Best
nominated,
Director, but
yeah.
still his film is succeeding. Like, it's the lead
But
actor
might suffer as a result.
might suffer as a result. Yeah, a lot of people are not too happy with Bohemian Rhapsody getting this much critical praise. And I saw the film; it was okay. I mean, it wasn't. I wasn't sure if they wanted to tell a story about how Queen came together, or they wanted to tell a story about Freddie Mercury's life. And it's just all over the place. The best part of the film, one, is Rami Malek's performance as Freddie Mercury.
As Freddie Mercury.
It's great.
Right.
He doesn't sing himself; they just sort of dub the songs over his voice,
Yeah.
which I can see why it's hard to imitate Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, I
singing.
mean, let's face it. If there was another Freddie Mercury out there,
He'd be playing Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Yeah, and then they recreate the Live Aid set that they did, and that was phenomenal. So I would say for those 2 things, it's a film to watch, but overall it's
Okay,
But
so
it's
what about BAFTA in here? Who got Best Picture at BAFTA? Which is
BAFTA,
the British
Academy Awards.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
That went to Roma, directed by Alfonso Cuarón. That won Critics' Choice for Best Foreign Language Film. It won Best Film with the BAFTAs, as you said. It won.
So that might get 2 if it might
It might
win.
get 2.
Might get 2.
It's also nominated for Best Foreign Language Film.
Yeah.
I might aggravate some people. I didn't like Roma. I did not. It's the story. It's set in 1970s Mexico City during this political upheaval, and the central character is a maid, and she's living with this family who's going through their own troubles. The husband is having an affair, and he's getting a divorce from the family. Meanwhile, she has gotten pregnant by her boyfriend, and the boyfriend is sort of taken off to join the political uprising community. Now that sounds like an interesting film, but it is very slow, and you hardly see most of that during the film. And I mean, I want to give some credit because Alfonso Cuarón, he grew up during that time period, so it's sort of a personal story, but it's very slow paced. Not a lot of dialogue, which shouldn't knock. I mean, I've seen a lot of films without dialogue, but I don't know. It was very slow to me, and I just couldn't connect with any of it. But
Now,
maybe
there
I'm
is
the
some
wrong audience.
controversy about Black Klansman and Black Panther being in the nominees. On the diversity angle, they had to have,
Yeah.
you know, how much truth in that?
Black Klansman, I think that's just the internet getting a little, controversial. It's Spike Lee's first director nomination. Black Panther, I mean, obviously there's people that say, superhero films don't belong in here, but obviously they do.
Well, there is art in superhero
Yes, there
films,
is.
there not?
No, there absolutely is. I love Black Panther. Personally, I didn't think it was my favorite superhero film out of last year. It sort of falters in the third act for me. But I do think it's interesting that, yes, it's nominated for Best Picture, but you'll notice it didn't get anything for Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, anything. So my question is, how can you nominate the picture but not nominate the pieces
Any of the players
that made the picture?
Right.
So I don't know, a lot of these films have some controversy around, particularly Green Book. I'd say Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody are the most controversial. Green Book is like the story of Tony Vallelonga, this Italian mobster in New York. He's like a bodyguard, and he takes the job of being the chauffeur for Dr. Don Shirley, an African-American doctor / piano player. He agrees to be his chauffeur / muscle as he goes on tour through the Deep South, and this is in like the 1950s, 60s. And it's a good film. I enjoy it. But
That would be a difficult job in those days.
Yes, it would. And it's a very fun film. And the two lead actors, I think, are fantastic. The whole issue is apparently the guy who wrote it is a descendant of Tony Vallelonga, and there's big criticisms because he never asked the Don Shirley's descendants anything. He just went off his
On
family.
his own, sure.
So
Yeah.
people are saying this didn't happen, blah blah blah.
Okay, let's have a drum roll here, and Chris's pick.
I'm gonna go safe choice. I think Green Book is the type of film that the Academy normally goes to. It's a nice friendship story. It deals with diversity. It's a feel-good film. It's a funny film, and it seems like a safe choice. So.
And this is a comedy.
This is a comedy. Yeah. It's a comedy.
A white guy driving a black guy.
Yes, it's a comedy.
During segregation.
Yes, it is a comedy.
It's a comedy.
But I think that's the safe choice.
Well, I'm sure if he had talked to Shirley's descendants, that it would have been quite so funny.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I say Green Book.
Green Book.
Maybe Roma, maybe Black Panther could take it, but I'd put my money on Green Book.
Hedging your bets, right?
Yeah, I'm hedging my bets. I know Vegas is watching right now.
Okay, well, let's go on to Best Director.
Best Director. So Alfonso Cuarón, again, for Roma. He won the Directors Guild Award. He won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Director. He won the Golden Globe for Best Director. And he won the British Academy's Award for Best Director. So I think it's in his wheelhouse that he's going to win the Oscar. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Yorgos Lanthimos for The Favorite. That's a bizarre film. We'll talk about that in a minute. Spike Lee. This is Spike Lee's first nomination, believe it or not, for Black Klansman.
Well, he hasn't been exactly known for wildly popular films, has he?
No, and he is a figure of controversy. He says what he thinks, and sometimes people don't like it. He did he did a presentation at Quinnipiac when I was there, and I attended it, and he said some things.
Yeah.
And then finally, Adam McKay for Vice, and then Powell, again, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Pawlikowski for Cold War, another Best Foreign Language Film nominee. So there's no real contest here. I think it's Alfonso Cuarón for Roma. Despite my personal feelings about the film, it's clear that he's going to win this film.
Okay, so we're on to Best Actor.
Best Actor.
A lot of names in there that we're quite familiar with.
That have come into this category before.
Right.
Christian Bale for Vice, Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born, Willem Dafoe for Tyranny's Gate. It's a film about Vincent van Gogh, and weirdly enough, the second Vincent van Gogh film we've had in a year, whatever. And then
Does he cut his ear off in the film?
I have not seen it, so I assume. Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody again, and Viggo Morgenstein as Green Book. He plays the mobster that drives Dr. Shirley around. So it's been between Christian Bale and Rami Malek for weeks, and right towards the end, Rami Malek just surged ahead. Christian Bale got the Critics' Choice for Best Actor and Best Actor in a Comedy, and he got the Golden Globe for Best Actor Comedy. Now, I said before that sometimes these award shows are auditions for people. Now, I don't think it's controversial to say that Hollywood is a very liberal, fickle and liberal media. So, but at the same time, I don't think Christian Bale did himself any favors when he thanked Satan. For his inspiration for the portrayal of Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
So
He
might have just torpedoed his own chances right there. But again,
well, when my question always is, here you are, an opportunity to be recognized for your peers, and you stand up there and say something stupid. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. And it's the thing, like, Dick Cheney's been out of the public eye for years. Why are you even going to attack him?
It's
What's
a decade.
The point? He's not in Trump's cabinet. He's not even in politics. Leave him alone. I mean, yeah, he did his thing, and whatever your opinion.
Did shoot a guy by accident.
He shot a guy by accident. That's in the film. But I mean, he's out of the public eye.
It was only birdshot too. I mean, it's not like he took a 45 round or anything.
I mean, I'm not going to spoil. It's like, it is such an interesting scene because it's just like that, and they shoot it like he actually intended to shoot the guy.
Him, of course they would.
So I was like, man, wow, good for you guys. But yeah, Rami Malek. I mean, say what you want about Bohemian Rhapsody. Obviously, it's a center of controversy for a lot of people, but he did a really good job, and frankly, I think he carried the film. So, I mean, if it were up to me giving the awards, I would give it to Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born, and he was the front runner for a long time, but then the awards happened, and Rami and Christian took the lead. So, I'm saying, safe money's on Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay. Best Actress. Now, Glenn Close was the surprise at the Golden Globes, right?
Yes.
For The Wife.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The Wife is about, I'll read down the nominees. Yalitza Aparicio, again, sorry for these pronunciations, for Roma. Glenn Close for The Wife. Lady Gaga for A Star Is Born. Olivia Colman for The Favorite. And Melissa McCarthy with her second nomination for Can You Ever Forgive Me? So, yeah. Glenn Close, this is her 7th nomination, and she's been cleaning up with Screen Actors Guild's Critics' Choice. Actually, she tied for Critics' Choice with Lady Gaga. So, and again, like, A Star Is Born was the big frontrunner for a lot of these awards, but then, things happen. And Lady Gaga, her only trophy has been tying with Glenn Close for the Critics' Choice. And if you think they could tie at the Oscars, the last tie at the Oscars was 2013 for sound editing. And then the last tie for acting was in 1969. So there's only been 2 ties at the Oscars in the entire history of this ceremony. So
Lion in Winter, that was with Sean Connery. That was a fantastic film. But Streisand was
funny girl,
unbelievable and funny girl.
Yeah, so, I mean, Lady Gaga got a very slim chance, I'm sorry to say. I mean, people love the good narrative of the Oscar race, like thinking like, oh, Glenn Close, she's been in this business for years. This is her 7th nomination. I think it's time we finally recognize Glenn Close for her work. Meanwhile, Lady Gaga.
Didn't she didn't win one for, I'm trying to think of that ensemble film, The Big Chill. She didn't win one for that? Oh.
Nominated, but didn't win. So yeah,
which was a fantastic film, by the way.
So I think Glenn Close, again, Lady Gaga is a singer, not prominently an actress, even though she does great. But I think when you think, like, who deserves it more, like, just subjectively, I think Glenn Close has been in this business for a long time. So, again, as much as I love A Star Is Born, I don't think she's going to get it. And her only real competition, I think, is Olivia Colman for The Favorite, who won Best Actress Comedy Golden Globe, the Best Actress at BAFTA. There's no overlap between the British Academy and the Oscars, but again, like, it's an audition stage, and also you got to think our friends over in the British Isles have a different taste than us.
Yes, and they do. I have BritBox, and
yes,
my wife and I have been watching all those British films
that.
and series. It's unbelievable.
But The Favorite is definitely an acquired taste of a film, if I do say so myself. It's, I don't even know how to pronounce it. It is based on historical events, but it is a dark romantic comedy / period piece. It deals with Queen Anne and her 2 aides. I forget their names. Olivia Colman plays Queen Anne, and Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz play her 2 aides. And basically, Weisz and Stone start competing for her affection / political power, influencing the Queen, yada, yada, yada. But it's not so much about politics. It's about the love that these three women have for each other. And like, it is the most outrageous thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, they're shooting guns at each other, they're throwing blood at each other. It's definitely a departure.
Not like real life.
Not like real life, no.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it's raunchy, and like, to watch a period piece that's raunchy, I was like, who the heck came up with this film?
Well, Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone are supporting actresses.
Yes.
That's a pretty powerful cast.
That is a powerful cast. And Olivia Colman, like, she did a great job. She plays Queen Anne, like, again, based on historical facts. We don't know how true any of their relationships were, but I think she does a great job of playing this woman who is a little insecure, but as time goes on, she starts coming to her own and realize, like, I'm not going to let my life be dominated by these two people. I'm going to take charge. So.
Okay, so you are going with Glenn Close. Yeah.
I'm going with Glenn Close.
All right,
I mean,
safe pick.
facts are right there.
Okay, Best Supporting Actor.
All right, so.
Give us those nominees.
All right, so Mahershala Ali for Green Book, Adam Driver for Black Klansman, Sam Elliott for A Star Is Born, Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me, and Sam Rockwell for Vice. Now, interestingly enough, Sam Rockwell won last year, and Mahershala Ali won 2 years ago. Rockwell won for 3 Billboards. Mahershala won for Moonlight.
Now,
So,
Elliot has never won one, has
this
he?
is Elliott's first nomination.
First nomination.
If you can believe it, in his long career.
Long, 50-year career.
Yeah, and I think it's more than well deserved. Like, he plays Bradley Cooper's older brother in A Star Is Born, like Sasha's manager. And his character is definitely the center of a lot of like emotional and dramatic moments in the film. Like, this is not just the guy narrating The Big Lebowski anymore. This is a guy who, you know, obviously cares a lot for his brother and is trying his best to steer him in the right direction, even though it's such a struggle.
I understand the dude might be coming back in take 2 of The Big Lebowski. Huh?
That Super Bowl ad, I don't know what
what that was about. Huh?
I don't know what it was about. I mean, that's a Super Bowl ad. Like, you have a random like celebrity, and then like, what are they advertising? Oh, it's Stella Artois. Okay.
Yeah,
Like,
but could it be a Big Lebowski return?
it could be. I don't know. I mean, the Coen brothers definitely have the money and the power to make it happen. I would be happy to see a second Big Lebowski. I mean, Jeff Bridges can do whatever he wants at this point in his career.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
But again, like, there's been no like real contest. I think Mahershala Ali is going to get a second Oscar for the first time in 2 years. I mean, he is great. He's Don Shirley in Green Book, and it's sort of a departure for him because Mahershala Ali is often playing like the wise, cracking, like smart, wise mentor, and here he's playing like a sort of like high class, upper class guy with a lot of insecurities and a lot of like baggage.
And talent.
Yeah, and talent. So it's definitely a departure for him. So I think people are recognizing that. And he's quickly becoming one of the most well-known and most talented figures in Hollywood right now. So I'd be happy to see it go to him again.
Okay, big time, and the supporting actress, kind of a big time lineup there.
Yeah. So,
Give us those.
Amy Adams for Vice as Lynn Cheney, Marina Del Tavira as in Roma, Regina King in If Beale Street Could Talk, Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz for The Favorite, and the winner of the Screen Actors Guild, who was not nominated, was Emily Blunt for A Quiet Place. So Emily Blunt got shut out for 2 roles, A Quiet Place and Mary Poppins Returns. So, again, Rachel Weisz won the BAFTA for Best Supporting Actress, but again, The Favorite is probably more akin to a British audience than American audiences. And I would say, like, maybe Regina King is going to win this award.
Well, she was the Golden Globe winner.
She was the Golden Globe and the Critics' Choice.
And the Critics' Choice, yeah.
If Beale Street Could Talk was not nominated for Best Picture, but it is based on a novel about a young African-American couple, and as the woman becomes pregnant, her husband is jailed for a crime he didn't commit, and so the whole film is about like trying to like liberate her husband while she's dealing with the pregnancy, and Regina King plays the mother. So it's been a very interesting film. A lot of people were upset it wasn't nominated for more, but again, Regina King seems to be the only winner, I want to say the spokesperson of this film now in award season. So
Drum roll.
I'd say Regina King if Beale Street Could Talk.
Okay, well, she would be beating out some pretty solid competition there.
I love Amy Adams. I love Emma Stone.
Isn't Amy Adams a winner already one time?
She's won a lot of Golden Globes, but she's sort of become like the Leonardo DiCaprio, where she's like
in
nominated
big films,
all the time.
good films, great performances.
Great performances, never nominated. So I don't know if Amy Adams has to do like Leonardo DiCaprio and spend 5 months in the winter and get attacked by a bear to win an Oscar. But
might be worth it though.
Might be worth it. I mean, She did really good as Lynn Chaney. But again, I mean, that film was really the center. Christian Bale was the best performance out of that film.
I think the first thing I ever saw her in was Sunshine Girls. She was like
Sunshine Cleaning.
Sunshine Cleaning, yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it was a great performance. She never fails to deliver.
Yeah.
All right, now we're at Best Animated Features,
Best
which I
Animated
know these
Feature.
are your favorites.
Oh, yeah, there's some of my favorites.
Some.
Yeah, the award category that always goes to Disney and Pixar, that might not go to Disney and Pixar this year. Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, Mirai, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So you've got a Wes Anderson film, you've got a Pixar sequel, you've got a Disney sequel, you have a foreign film with Mirai, and I think for the first time you have a film from Sony Pictures with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now again, more superhero films, but I mean,
Wreck-It Ralph certainly is.
Wreck-It Ralph, yeah,
he's a superhero too.
he's a video game character.
Yeah,
and this is all about him like going into the internet and like online gaming and how like social media works and stuff. It's Spider-Man. There's no question. It's won every single award. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, another Spider-Man film. I'm gonna get a little nerdy for a second. It's not about the typical Peter Parker Spider-Man. It's about this other Spider-Man, the young Miles Morales, and it sort of deals. It's very meta because the whole issue is like there's different dimensions and there's a whole bunch of other different Spider-Man characters, and so like he's sort of at the center of this major controversy of like, why are all these Spider-Man popping up in my universe? And then he sort of has to rise to the occasion, put on the mask, and
Well,
save
I'm
the
always
day.
criticizing remakes and whatnot. Can't Hollywood come up with any new ideas? But I'm
Right.
a Sherlockian, so every time there's any
Like
kind of
Sherlock.
a Sherlock remake or a new Sherlock film, I'm excited
Well,
about it.
I don't-
Cumberbatch, by the way, was great.
Yeah, I know you didn't see that one with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, did you?
Not yet, but I do
Okay.
plan on seeing
I
that.
mean, I I heard people walked out in the first 30 minutes.
Did they really?
Yeah,
Well, if
so-
they were serious Sherlock fans, I could see it. But there's so many things to make fun of
Yeah.
about Sherlock Holmes that I could see I could see the basis of it in any
Right.
event.
Yeah.
Although those two guys, Riley and
Riley and Ferrell, they do incredible work. So I can't understand. I haven't seen it yet. I can't understand what's wrong with it. Maybe I'll see it and I'll see what's wrong with it. But back to Spider-Man. I mean, yeah, it's like this. How many Spider-Mans we've had? I mean, it's a different Spider-Man. Obviously, Peter Parker's still in there, but this is about Miles Morales. It's not the like, oh, I get bit by a spider. What am I gonna do? It's almost the message is like, anybody can have powers, but it's your choice to become Spider-Man. And it's nice because again, Miles Morales, he is a half Puerto Rican, half African American young man. So that's a nice positive role model for some kids. There's a lot of strong female characters in the film. It does something different with Spider-Man, who's been on film for so many years, and it's refreshing. And the animation style is incredible, so I think that's probably why.
Okay, so run down our winners, and then we're going to go to some of your personal picks here.
Yeah, my annual airing of grievances.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Just let me rant for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not a big horror film guy, but I loved A Quiet Place last year. For those that don't know, Quiet Place, it's the first direct and written effort, I believe, from John Krasinski, who played Jim on The Office. The whole thing is like, it's a post-apocalyptic world. These aliens have invaded Earth, and they can't see, but they can hear, and they have really, really good hearing, so you just have to be quiet. So the whole film is almost silent. There's very little dialogue. Like, there's sign language with subtitles, but it's incredible. It is the most surreal experience I've ever had in a movie theater, where the entire audience was so quiet. I didn't see one phone go up once. And like, all I could hear was like the slurps and the popcorn. It's like, it was such a surreal, upsetting experience. Like, it's a scary film because like you're so silent, and then all of a sudden there's a jump scare and you're like, whoa. But it's a really beautiful and like, again, a really entertaining film. Again, like for like this is, I think it's his first time directing, but I thought it was like incredible for him to like handle horror and then handle like minimal dialogue. So, I mean, Best Picture and Best Director, I say I would have done that. And also his wife, Emily Blunt, who starred alongside him, I thought she would have done well. I'm going to show my love for Emily Blunt a lot. Because the fact that her performance in Mary Poppins Returns, while it is a sequel, I found it a travesty that she was not nominated. It's a little bit of a Julie Andrews impression here and now, but I think it's a great performance. It stands on its own. Again, it's a sequel. but it's a popcorn film. And while it's sort of like, it follows the same formula of the original Mary Poppins, like it repeats a lot of the same beats and stuff, but at the same time, like you don't care because it's done so well.
Oh, it was a great film.
Yeah, no, it was great. So, and normally, you know, Disney like slides the money across the table and it's like, why don't you nominate us?
Yeah, right.
So it's amazing that it didn't get much more than one song nomination and a couple of like production elements. But I mean, Emily Blunt, she will be back. She's a very talented actress.
Absolutely.
We've talked about A Star Is Born at length. Bradley Cooper got nominated for Best Director in pretty much every awards ceremony but the Oscars. So it was like a big like eyebrow raise, like what happened? He's also nominated for Best Actor, so maybe they thought like.
Well, that's quite a performance to both direct and be the lead.
To direct and act, and it's his
in
first
a major
time directing.
motion picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he did acting-wise, he did phenomenal. But I think like as far as the director, he had such an innate like connection with how like human emotion works between two people. Like he knew just where to put the camera so you could feel what these people were going through. So, I mean, I think he'll be directing a lot more. So I think we'll see him again, but. I think for a first time directing job, I thought that was
Well, I
pretty
think
great.
you get paid more money for being a leading man, so.
I mean,
I think
I wonder
he's
if
still
he
going
got
to be a
two
leading.
paychecks or just one big paycheck.
Right. Well, the piece of the action comes when you're the director,
That's
right?
true. And you get to hang out with Lady Gaga for a few months.
Yeah.
Black Panther, we talked about Black Panther in length. There was a lot of great performances in that. I thought Michael B. Jordan as the villain was really great. I think the reason I think he's so great is because, and this is either a credit to him or a credit to the script, but he's one of like the first villains in like a long time where you go like, you know what? He's right. He's not doing like, I don't like how he's going about it, but he's right. What he's saying is right. His actions I don't necessarily agree with, but he's right.
Right.
So, and that's the man who plays Creed's son in the new Rocky films. And again, I said nerd side, Black Panther, probably not the best superhero film to come out. I would say the third Avengers film, Avengers Infinity War. Now, I'm not saying give Infinity War all the awards, but I thought Josh Brolin as the villain was really good. I thought a Best Supporting Actor nomination would have been good for him. And then Alan Silverstein, who, you know, famously wrote the music to Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He's composed the original Avengers score, and I just think the music in this film is just incredible. Like, I think it's some of his best work. I have the soundtrack on vinyl, and it's great to clean the apartment with on a Saturday.
Still buying vinyl, huh?
I actually, like, I got a turntable for Christmas for the first time, so this is my first vinyl, one of my first vinyl albums. So.
Well, I got a huge box of vinyl that you can borrow from
Okay.
the 70s,
All right.
60s, and 70s, but the best ones are the ones that have the most scratches in them, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, mine don't have any scratches yet. And it's amazing that they're still making vinyl these days. And then Vice, Sam Rockwell, he got nominated for playing George W. Bush. It was a great performance. It was almost like, you know, a caricature of George W. Bush. I thought, as far as supporting roles, Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld in that film was, wow. I mean, it's Steve Carell playing Donald Rumsfeld, so what a mesh. I mean, you got to see it to believe it. And then my last snub, and probably I think the internet agrees with me on this one more than anything, for Best Documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, which was it deals with the life of Mr. Rogers. Yeah. The most successful documentary out last year. I think one, as far as box office, probably one of the most successful
box office, sure. I think
yeah.
it was, well, let me see. Was it at all in the box office top 10?
It was not in the top 10, but I think as far as, you know, as far as box office for documentaries, it did really, really well. One of the highest rated films last year. Not like a lot of major awards, but definitely a lot of awards came its way. And so when that was not on the list for Best Documentary this year, like a lot of people were pretty upset because, you know, who doesn't like Mr. Rogers? That is one of, like, I saw it. It's a very emotional film because Mr. Rogers, it's about, you know, Mr. Rogers is all about loving yourself for who you are and, you know, being true to yourself, loving your neighbor and stuff. I don't think there was a dry eye in the audience when I saw that.
Well, I've seen his congressional testimony, and, you know, really shined a very bright light on Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
And also, I can't ever forget Eddie Murphy doing Mr. Robinson's
Oh my
Neighborhood,
God, I love those.
which was absolutely hilarious.
I love those. I'm not going to talk about them
No,
now, but I
no.
love those sketches.
But you know, you've got to be for somebody to do a parody of that type that's
Yes.
successful. You know that the subject
Yeah.
was just
And he
fantastic.
was cool with it. The documentary, it actually like talks about Mr. Robinson, and Mr. Rogers was cool with it.
Yeah.
He was cool with it. I mean, Mr. Rogers was probably one of the nicest guys working in the industry for a long time. And again, this resonated with a lot of people just because I think like this documentary came at the right time. Obviously, there's a lot of contempt out there in the world right now.
Right,
So
for sure.
yeah, I think we all could use a little Mr. Rogers. every now and
Absolutely,
then.
on both sides of the aisle, I
Yeah.
might add. Okay, so what do we want to close with there? You got some closing comments?
Like I mean, obviously, like, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be as bad as Snow White and Rob Lowe at the Copacabana in 1989. And just fun fact, that was the year before they hired Oscar legend Billy Crystal.
Billy
to
Crystal,
host.
why wouldn't they bring back something that works?
I don't know.
They do sequels all the time.
They
Billy
do.
Crystal
Yeah, I
would be
mean,
fantastic.
apparently they couldn't find a host that didn't tweet something offensive in their entire career. I mean, that's what happened to Kevin Hart. He was hired and fired within 24 hours because somebody took the time to dig up some offensive homophobic tweets that he made long, long ago before he was even in the public eye. And so they were still like, can you please publicly apologize for this? And then, he didn't want to do it because he said, like, I've apologized for this over and over and over again.
Now, how many apologies do you have to make?
Right. So.
And I think this week Mel Brooks came out and said that political correctness is just destroying comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the funniest films I've ever seen was Blazing Saddles.
Love Blazing Saddle. Would never get made now.
It could never get made.
It would never get made.
The-
That is a film I can never do at Cinema Series.
Well, the main character sticks his head out when they're trying to get the KKK guys, and he sticks his head out behind the rock and says, "Where's the white women at?"
That's like the only quote I can say right now. You took
I
my
know,
only
you can't-
quote.
You can't say any of the other
I mean,
ones.
the one that I died laughing was like, I paid you guys to lay track, not dance around like I watched that New Year's Eve with a couple of buddies, and when that line came, we just had to pause and take a 10-minute laughing
Take a break.
break.
Well, what a cast too!
It
I
was
mean,
an incredible
Slim
cast.
Pickens,
Slim Pickens,
Gene
Cleavon
Wilder,
Little, Gene
Cleavon
Wilder.
Little.
Oh yeah, it's like
the
steady
German
as a rock.
girl.
Yeah, I shoot with this hand.
Yeah. Harvey Korman.
Harvey Korman.
Oh my
Great
God!
film. Love that
Unbelievable film. Mel Brooks.
Yep.
etc.
Never gonna get a film like that's never gonna get made.
Never
again.
going to.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that that's a detriment to comedy because a film like that right now really needs to be made.
Yeah, and in fact, like people like in this day and age are still laughing at it.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's still hope for.
Well, I was reading
outrageous
an article.
comedies.
I was reading an article about Mary Poppins, where
Yeah.
people were offended that Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews had.
The chimney dust.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was blackface.
Come
even
on.
though he was a chimney sweep.
I know.
I mean,
Some-
give me a break.
Always looking for something.
Absolutely.
But I guess to bring it back to Mel Brooks, as far as this Oscar ceremony, hope for the best, expect the worst.
Okay, that's it from the news desk here at the BNEWS Oscar Preview. I'm Phil Gallagher, along with our entertainment reporter here at BCAT, our own Chris Flaherty. Homegrown, by the way.
Yes, homegrown. Thanks for letting me rant about films again.
Yeah,
for another
thanks,
year.
Chris. Thank you, and have a pleasant Oscars.